Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Super Bowl fans across the nation and around the world, and there's billions of you. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show, usually featuring Clay Hall, but you know what? When you need an expert, you need an expert. And so I reached down to not South Florida, but just north of South Florida in the West Palm Beach area. I won't give his whereabouts I won't be specific on his whereabouts because I don't want people to hunt this guy down. But Jeff Snook, welcome back to the Tim May Show, my man.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me. Super Bowl week. And yes, where I live is qualifies for South Florida. I think anything below Orlando, they call South Florida. But I heard national pundits all the time use the word Southern Florida. That's not accurate.
Yeah.
I think you use Southern Texas, but Florida, it's South Florida.
I like East Florida. You're in East Southeast Florida. That's where you are. But I digress.
I'm real
That's
close
from
to
a pilot's perspective. Exactly. You're like Hunter S. Thompson, man. You're hiding out, but not really. You're in a bunker, but you're not afraid to declare yourself to be an Ohio State fan. And you're not afraid to say that occasionally you do dabble in the sport of wagering, which is why I've got you on the Tim May Show today. And you and I, we want to do a lot more of these in the future, but I want to get your take on the Super Bowl. But before I get your take on the by take, I don't mean who you think is going to win. I mean, your best prop bets, all those kind of things, which really separate the Super Bowl, in my opinion, from any other sporting event, the myriad things you can bet on. But real quick, before we get started on that, we touched on, last time you were on, we touched on Ryan Day reaching out and hiring Arthur Smith from who was basically, I guess, a free agent, but with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Before that, a head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Before that, working hand in hand with Mike Vrabel for some successful seasons with the Tennessee Titans. But as Ohio State's kind of put its roster to bed, so to speak, just what's your take? Just an overall, you don't have to get specific. You don't have to name players and stuff, but how do you think, what grade would you give Ohio State thus far in this offseason since when the season ended with the loss to Miami till now? How do you think Ryan Day and the guys have fared?
Well, to be safe, I'd grade it incomplete. I mean, we have no idea if Arthur Smith's going to work or not. Hopefully, Ryan Day did his due diligence, thinks it's a good mix with the two of them working on the offense together. But just like a year ago, we had no idea if Matt Patricia was going to work. He worked splendidly for the most part. So, as we talked about before, I think they need help in the run game. And this is the guy that can help them in the run game, maybe be the perfect complement for Ryan Day's knowledge in the pass game. And they spend all spring, summer learning together, simulate how they're going to call a game in spring practice and the spring game and blend perfectly together. We don't know till we see it. As far as the portal goes, I looked at all their portal additions, and they needed some depth at different places. It looks like they've got that. They didn't add any portal player to the offensive line. I thought they would. I think they got a backup from Dartmouth, if I stand corrected. But that's about it. And I was hoping they'd get a big name starter from somewhere else to retool that offensive line, specifically on the right side. That was their weakness at the end of the year. And I think Ryan said he's happy with the guys he's got, and he's going to go with the returning players that have been in their program for 3 to 4 years. And so, I mean, he's the judge. Maybe he just couldn't get a good guy on the O-line as far as a portal goes. So, we'll see come fall. We'll see second week of the year at Texas.
Yeah. It is interesting. The one guy left of significance from the offensive line was Tegra Shabola, the guy that everybody loved to rip on in certain situations. Yet he was a 2-year starter. You know what I mean? That's tough to see a 2-year, no matter how good or bad he's been. And at times he's been really good. Just watch the screen pass to TreVeyon Henderson at the end of the first half against Texas, for example, when he and Carson Hinsman got out front. Almost every offensive lineman got a hell of a block on it. But my point is, they're going to go with the ones they got. But I still think we're going to see some shuffling up front, with that offensive line, like Ian Moore. How's he going to figure into it? Obviously he went in for Austin Cervell when he got banged up and couldn't go back in against Miami. He went in at left tackle. Ian Moore did. And we'll see what other mixes and matches they come up with. But I'm very, like you, I'm curious to see what Arthur Smith brings specifically to that discipline when you consider the number of guys. Tyler Bowen's the offensive line coach, and a couple of 3 guys he had working with him. I think he lost one of those guys, but how they'll get to that, because even Ryan Day will tell you that's probably job one going into the spring, is getting the right side of the offensive line figured out. So I'm with you on that. Forget about all that stuff.
Ironically, ironically, I'm on the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer this year, which leaves the 17th. So what's that, about 10, 11 days from now? And the current players that are on the list are Julian Sane and those 3 returning offensive line starters. So hopefully I'll get a chance to sit down with one of them or just in passing, get their feelings on it.
Yeah. Hey, take a video of it, man, with your phone. There'll be some media on that cruise, but I digress.
Not usually.
Good point. Good point. But just get a feel for him. I know about you. I know about you and getting, hey, buddy. Next thing you know, you and him are arguing about what they're going to do on third down. But that's okay.
No, I only argue with the host of the Tim May Show.
Oh, really? Well, see, you're going to have a chance. You're going to have a chance to argue with Ryan Day face to face. I hope that you follow through. You know what I mean? I hope you follow through and put your money where your mouth is, so to speak.
Ryan Day is trying to raise money for the James Center and Cancer Research and the cancer hospital there. I've lost 3 close family members to cancer. So I always love doing anything I can to promote that good cause. I think the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer raises $3.2 to $4 million every week they go. So the last thing I'm going to do is bother Ryan Day about his offensive weaknesses and tendency to screw up in the red zone. I won't bring that up once. He wants to get out there and relax and raise money for a good cause.
Ask him this. Why didn't you ask him that? Ask him this. You got a chance to do that, and instead of screaming it to me in my phone, in my ear on my phone, you have a chance to actually ask yourself. Maybe you can get him in a good-natured conversation. But I digress. Bottom line is, you're one of the more savvy. Is that the best way of putting it? Savvy gambler's not the right word, because I think it's gambling, but you're a little more savvy wagerers that I know, and I don't know a lot of them. But you would be at my top of my list. My point is, I want to pick your brain on the Super Bowl. And yeah, by the way, who's your favorite? Who is your favorite?
Well, Seattle's favored by 4.5 to 5 points. That's bounced back and forth since the match was made.
Yeah.
So, if you put a gun to my head, I'd probably take Seattle and lay the points. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch the over-under, which is 45.5. Neither one of those. I look at prop bets, individual player prop bets I think are more beatable. I've had good luck with those this season. And, let's face it, back the old days where beat writers, I could never gamble. It's a moral issue, ethical issue. I'd probably been fired from newspaper if they'd caught me. So I wasn't going to do it. But now that it's legal, everybody's got an app on their phone. And I fool around with it with what I call pizza money. Very little. I'm not one of those guys. One of my best friends was Art Schleister. Still talk to him quite a bit. And I know what happened to him. And, if I wanted to, I could go to Vegas and get as deep as he was into it, and that's not the lifestyle I want to live. I know I have some self-discipline. So, I'm too competitive with what I do, and to lose 100 or 200 or 300 in a football game, I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. And it's not the money. I just don't like losing. And you play enough in the NFL, you're going to lose. I think I could beat college football because, let's face it, there's 132 teams they put lines on Saturdays in the fall, and in 135, I stand corrected. In the NFL, there's 32. So it's a big difference. They release their injury report.
Yes.
If somebody tells you they beat the NFL at gambling, don't believe them. Over the course of time, over the course of a year, season, their lifetime, they might beat them a weekend. That happens all the time. But over time, It's almost impossible to beat the NFL.
Okay, well, let's just dive right into the Super Bowl. And as you and I were talking on the phone a couple of days ago, when I was getting you ready for this, I wanted to, my point is, I think legalized gambling, wagering on the Super Bowl, it's already the most watched TV program in the world. I think it is, right? It even beats soccer across the pond and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. But then it's really been enhanced by people being able to make ridiculous wagers of ridiculous things who really probably don't give a rat's rear end about the Super Bowl and who wins or loses. And so I'm going to hit you with this first prop bet possibility. I wanted to get your take on it. It's an over and under via betonline.ag, who I look at all the time because I've been on their email list for a long time. But this is the one I think that's captured America's imagination in terms of prop bets. What weird can they go? The prop bet is over and under total pelvic thrusts by Bad Bunny, the halftime entertainment. Total pelvic thrusts by Bad Bunny. It's the over under is 2.5. Jeff Snook, you've got 5 seconds to give me your answer on what that will be, which way you will go, over or under, which means he will do two or fewer or three or more.
I never heard of Bad Bunny till about 3 weeks ago when the announcement was made he's going to do the Super Bowl halftime show.
It was a little longer ago than that, but go ahead.
I don't know what Roger Goodell's thinking putting this clown out there for the halftime show. So, who knows? I've never seen him perform. I saw bits and pieces of his speech the other night at the Grammys, and he's another bonehead decision by the NFL. This should be a mainstream artist like they used to do. I think he's reaching. I don't know why they're reaching so badly, but I wouldn't even dignify that prop with an answer.
Wow. So you have no opinion on Bad Bunny. You haven't done your homework on a regular show. How many pelvic thrusts does he do per song or per show?
The next song Bad Bunny performs will be the first one I ever heard of this guy. I mean, why would I listen to a guy named Bad Bunny?
You think that, but you probably have heard some of his songs before. You just didn't know it was Bad Bunny. Here's another one.
At halftime, I'm turning over the Turning Point halftime show.
All right. Before we get to the serious ones, the serious prop bets, another one at the top of their list here at betonline.ag is, will Chris Collinsworth mispronounce Nick Imanwari's last name? Will he, first time through, will he mispronounce Nick Imanwari's last name? Yes, plus 250. No, minus 400. Where do you fall on that one?
I'll go with the no. That's minus. It's basically 1 to 4 odds. So, and the reason is you got 2 weeks to prepare for a Super Bowl, and the first thing those guys
to matter
do is
with Chris Collinsworth, though.
Well, you go down that pronunciation chart, and he's going to practice, get that last name correct before they ever go on the air. So I'd say no.
Yeah. Okay. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, let's do one more real quick. Which touchdown celebration will happen first? Will it be the spike? Will it just be a spike plus 500? The gritty plus 600? Home run hit plus 700? Lambeau leap plus 800? I don't know how you can do the Lambeau leap where they're playing. That'd be a hell of a jump. Or the squabble plus 900?
Well, I would answer that with a question.
With Jaxon Smith-Njigba, you could get both the spike and the gritty. But which one will happen first? Go ahead.
That was the answer. Which one does Jaxon Smith-Njigba normally do? Which one does Kenneth Walker normally do? Both of those guys I think are good bets for anytime touchdowns. So if you study which ones they've done in the past, and you want to take a flyer, then you decide which of those two guys will score the first touchdown. And that's who knows? New England might get the ball first and go right down the field.
Hey, there's a guy named Charlie Puth, Puth, is singing the national anthem. And I've always wondered, you can wager here at betonline.ag, the length of the national anthem over under is 125 seconds, 2 minutes and 5 seconds. How could you be the singer for the national anthem and not get in on this action, if you follow my drift?
Yeah, that's a thing. I mean, that's why they have limits on these props. Some websites have limits of $500. Some websites have limits of 1,000. But they don't want a guy like him telling his friends, "I'm going to sing a quick one or a slow one," and then
Right.
the friends
Cleaning up.
betting 10 to 30 grand. That's not going to happen. So there's limit on these off-color props. There's always limits on them. So I saw that
Yeah.
same prop at 2 minutes even. You saw it at 2 minutes and 5 seconds. So if you're smart, here's what you do: you take the under on the prop site that says 205. You take the over on the one that says 2 minutes. The worst you can do is go 1 and 1, and you try to hit them in the middle. That's
Yeah.
called a middle.
Yeah.
So you got to be a member of both prop sites.
That's when you and I were in Vegas at the Super Bowl. We were out in Vegas Super Bowl weekend last year, remember? And I took one team and my wife took the other because it's one of the few times I ever wager. Period. And so we had a push. You know what I mean? And that's good. I remember, what was it, 2 years ago? 2 years ago, the over under on sacks for Nick Bosa was 1/2, 0.5, and the over under for Chase Young was 0.5, which means you get one and you win. I bet both of those props as being over. And believe it or not, I think first series of the game defensively, Chase Young gets a sack. Nick Bosa came close to 6 sacks that day and didn't get a one. So it was a push for me
Yeah, right.
in
I
winning. Isn't
remember
that
that.
crazy? Isn't that crazy how that can
Yeah,
go, though? I mean, it's I wanted to
yeah,
ask you
it
this one,
is.
though, before we move on to more serious stuff. This is a good prop. Which will be higher? Stephon Diggs, receiver for the New England Patriots, his number of catches or his number of children? He has 6 children. Will he have 6? I think he'd have to have 7 catches to beat that, right? The way I read this. And
Yeah,
that's
they usually
right
put a
now is a plus. Go ahead.
I'd go under on that. 6 catches is a lot for any receiver, so you try to play the law of averages. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, by the way, is 7.5 catches. I've never seen one so
That's
high in a
serious,
Super
though.
Bowl. That's the highest.
We're going to get
That's
to
the
that in a
highest I've
minute.
ever
Go
seen.
ahead, though.
Yeah,
So
I
you
said no.
think
That's the
Stephon
highest I've
Diggs
ever
is
seen. A Super Bowl.
yeah,
I'd
but
go
Stephon
under
Diggs'
6.
number of children. Okay. Well, there you
Yeah,
go,
under
ladies
6.
and gentlemen. Yeah, that's
I
one
didn't
of the
realize he
many.
had so many
We might.
kids.
Yeah. There's a joke in there, but I'm not going to use it. Because
Well, I got
this
a
is
lot of
an
jokes about
adult
that.
show. It's another adult. By the way, Stephon Diggs, I remember him when he was being recruited. Talked to him probably 10 times. He finally ended up going to Maryland instead of Ohio State. He was going to be Urban Meyer's Percy Harvin at Ohio State, and it didn't work out. But I interviewed him also at the Big Ten meetings, and what a great guy he was. He was personable and everything else, and it's just cool. Just like Jaxon Smith-Njigba, I used to trade barbs with him about who had a better football program, Lufkin or Rockwall. And of course, he always sided with Rockwall, which is where he's from in Texas, there on the other side of the lake of the reservoir east of Dallas, the smallest county in Texas, Rockwall County. But it's just interesting to see these guys who, in some form or fashion, you had a relationship with playing on the grandest stage, right? And I just wanted to get your take on Jaxon Smith-Njigba before we start talking about the prop bets. What just stands out to you about him and this rise, Jeff? You've seen, just like me, you're almost as old as me, even though you only look you look a year younger than me. You're almost as old as me. But what just jumps out at you about Jaxon Smith-Njigba and this ridiculous season?
Well, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, I think, or after the championship game. I have never seen a receiver. Let me start by saying this: he's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, he's not as near as big as Marvin Harrison, he's not as fast as Chris Olave, going down the list. He gets open better than any receiver in the NFL that I've seen. He just has a knack, and he's got smooth hips, they like to say. So when he sets up a cornerback or a safety to get open, you'll watch him when they isolate him. He'll run right at them and you get them in your hip pocket, and they don't know which way he's going to go, inside or outside. So the Seahawks line him up. I noticed different places. Sometimes he'll be in the slot. Sometimes he'll be outside, and they run so many different routes off each formation that he's in. So you can't really peg where he's going to go. And he creates space better than any receiver I've ever seen. By that, I mean he finds that open space and leaves a corner in his wake. And Sam Darnold now knows that. They've had 17 games together chemistry-wise, where, I can see when he goes the line of scrimmage when they replay a catch by him, and he knows he's going to go to him before the ball snapped because he can see the formation of coverage. Obviously, the coverage dictates it. But, boy, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, he's like 7-Eleven. He's open 24 hours a day. He's always open. And it's his ability to get open that makes him great. Not to mention, once he does, he's got great hands. So it's not like he's going to blow by a guy. He's not that. He creates space, and when the ball's thrown to him, he catches it. He's just a freak athlete. And he's the best in the league right now.
I've been asked about him.
He's the best.
I've been asked about him a lot. This is going to sound like a funny analogy, and I don't care if it does, but I equate him, the way he's built, to being one of the Bosa brothers, the one that didn't get to grow up as tall or get to be get as much of the beef, but his from the waist down, he is a stout dude, man. And where I'm going with that is he has great balance, a great center of gravity. He can make moves with his legs when it looks like he's going one way and he's really going the other. I mean, it just is astounding to me. And he's tough. And by tough, I don't mean he can take a punch to the face. I'm talking about he's tough in the way he works on the other guys' minds as well as physically. And I'm talking about defenders. And you're right. You just hit on something I want to talk to you about. I mean, he and Sam Darnold, he ran some routes the other day in that championship game that were clear. It was like if me and my buddy Mike Lawrence, we used to be I was the quarterback, of course, because I was so I could do two. I had two things going for me. I was extremely accurate, and I couldn't run a lick. So I was a quarterback. But Mike Lawrence and I would set people up in these pickup games and stuff way back when, in my good old days back in Lufkin, Texas, and I could just throw the ball to where I knew Mike Lawrence was going to be. I'm not talking about on an out cut or something. I'm talking about on little moves down the field. And he and Sam Darnold are so much on the same page. You pegged it, man. It's kind of a joy to watch. I don't know why they don't go to that even more often. You know what I mean? Even though he may catch 11 or 12 or 15 balls on Sunday, I'd throw it to him even more. I mean, why do you think they do? Why do you think coaches are still reluctant to put the ball totally in a wide receiver's hands like that?
I don't think Seattle's reluctant to do it. Look at his numbers. I mean, it's just you got to remember
about 15 or 20. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because he's open. We just talked about it. You don't target a guy that's not open. He gets open. He gets open very easily. It's almost effortless that he gets open.
Every
and
play.
I equate him more to a point guard. I love the way when he comes down, how point guard crosses midcourt and he sets the defender up for which way he's going to go and beats him off the dribble. Yeah. He'd be a heck of a point guard. That's what he does into his route. You can't stay with him. There's nobody in the league. The best, I think, is Patrick Surtain with the Broncos. And then trying to think what other cornerbacks match up. But even those guys, you're at a disadvantage trying to match up with him one-on-one. So one of the interesting parts of this game is to see schematically what the Seahawks do to keep Jaxon Smith-Njigba from getting 10 or 12 catches. Are they going to double him? Are they going to shade their coverage? What are they going to do? And that's one piece of the chess game to watch right away.
Yeah. And, I didn't make myself totally clear, too, on my what I was talking about him, too, though, is he and Sam Darnold are on the same page, which means Sam Darnold has to make up his mind. He's going to Jaxon Smith-Njigba on some of these plays before Jaxon Smith-Njigba has finished his route, meaning he's not just waiting for him to break open and throwing him the ball. That's a trust between a quarterback and a wide receiver that not every team has. I think Joe Burrow has that with Jamar Chase, and to a certain extent, T. Higgins. Yeah. They're different receivers, but you understand that's just a an example of what I'm talking about. But I mean, when you have a quarterback who knows he can put it right over there, and that Jaxon Smith-Njigba has the freedom to run the route the way he wants to, and then get there, you're cooking, baby, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of this depends on down and distance, but every quarterback
Oh
has
yeah,
three options on most routes. So, but he's the primary option on many of the routes they run, probably more than not. You got Cooper Kupp as the second receiver, who once was a star with the Rams, and he's lost a step, but he had a couple big catches
oh yeah,
against the Rams in the NFC Championship. But no, Jaxon Smith and Jigma will be his primary target on probably more than 50% of his throws, and you can see why, because he's like I'm a broken record, but he's usually open. He's very rarely covered.
yeah. And the point I'm making also is we're not just talking about him beating one guy; we're talking about him beating the safety too, meaning selling something and then going somewhere else. That's where I think he is so adept at his change of direction, like you were talking about, the way he can turn his hips, flip his hips, the way he can change direction. I'm not just talking about Sam Darnold's just going to throw the ball out there in a spot every time. He's got to know the safety is getting beat by Jaxon Smith-Njigba before he does take that chance. But it's just uncanny to me when you watch it on video, watch replays of how safeties make the wrong moves on him. And so then you got something going. Let's get into what I know you did your homework on this, but I wanted to ask you right now, your number one prop bet in Super Bowl 60 is what?
Don't have a number one. I have several that I like, and having seen the Ohio State players and followed them in their career in the NFL, the best bets I like deal with Jaxon Smith-Njigba and TreVeyon Henderson. And the reason I can say that because I follow them every game, and I've seen their props leading up to this game and what they are now. I'll give you for instance, on TreVeyon, and I like him in three different props. They didn't play him much against the Broncos because of the weather, and I think they're worried about pass protection. So all season long, TreVeyon's rushing number's been in the high 30s. For this game, his rushing number started at 17 and a half yards. They're surely going to give him the ball more than they have in the championship game. So, TreVeyon, as elusive as he is, as quick as he can bust one anytime. I love that over 17 and a half yards. He could get that on any one carry. His over-under rushing number carries wise is 5.5. I wouldn't touch that because I think he'd get to 17 and a half on 3 to 4 carries. So you don't know if he's going to get that 6 carry to win the bet. Another one is his receiving number is 0.5 receptions. That means if he catches a pass, you go over, you win. If he doesn't, you lose. I think they'll have one screen pass set up for him, probably at least one. So I love that over 0.5 receptions. And then to couple that with the receiving yards is now up to 3.5. So one catch, he's going to get over 3.5 yards, you hope to. Let's get trapped in the backfield on the screen. So I like those three together, not as a parlay, but individual. I think they're going to play him more than they did in the championship game. He's behind Stevenson, in the backfield, and that guy's rushing numbers only dropped to 49.5 yards, while I think people were noticing TreVeyon's numbers so low. And then the Buckeye we were just talking about, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, 94.5 receiving yards. I think that's low for him. I mean, you look at the championship game; he had that in the third quarter. He was way over 130, if I remember correctly. I would not touch his receptions number. That's 7.5. That's very high. He could get over 94 without catching 8 passes. So I like the yardage only. The other bet I like with him is Super Bowl MVP. He's 11-2. So that's basically plus 550. So you bet $100, you'd win 550, and you take a flyer on him winning the MVP by having a 3-figure yardage game and 7 to 9 catches. Now, almost annually the MVP goes to the winning quarterback. This might be the year where that doesn't happen, because if you look at Sam Darnold's numbers at the end of the game, they might be lopsided in favor of Jaxon Smith-Njigba. So I like him at 11-2 to win the MVP. And then it drops down dramatically to Drake May and Sam Darnold. Whoever wins the game they're the heavy favorites to win the MVP. Those are the ones that jumped out at me. And it's not that I'm an Ohio State homer. It's just I follow these guys so closely through the year. There's great
Right.
value in those numbers. They've been higher. TreVeyon's numbers been dramatically higher down the stretch. He had 2 games over 130 rushing yards, and he had a lot of long busts for touchdowns. So when you look at that on a fast track in Santa Clara, it should be good weather versus the snowy game in Denver. The snowy game in Denver brought his numbers way down. Now's the game you take advantage of it. So, like I said, his
Right.
rushing numbers have been the high 30s, even as high as the 42, 43 earlier in the year when he was coming off those 100-yard games. So now he's at 17.5. That's a very, very low number.
Yeah, it's ridiculously just a low based on just the way you explained it. I mean, you and I were watching that was a Monday night game with Saquon Barkley, and his over under was like, what was it? I'm trying to think. It was like 70 something in a game. And the thing about
I don't know
Saquon
which
is,
number. Oh, this past season? Yeah, I
yeah,
think I hit that one. I remember, on
you
one
did
run.
hit that one. Yeah, and that's man, I think that's a juicy one sitting out there is over under 17 and a half yards for TreVeyon Henderson because he could do it the first time he touches the ball. I mean, I know, yeah, of course, New England's going to be set up. Seattle's going to be set up to shut him down. And boy, this Seattle defense, big time, in terms of the way they can get after people. But yeah, that's crazy. And then, like you said, I think the biggest number out there is Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Was it 7.5 catches over under? That's a lot of
big number.
catches.
Yeah, that's a big number. I would not. I'd stay away from that one. The 2 other
Yeah.
things I like: Drake May's completions numbers 19.5. I like Drake May over that number for a variety of reasons. I think Seattle plays a lot of cover too, and they drop into that
Right.
umbrella defense quite a bit. I think New England's game plan with Josh McDaniel will probably be to throw underneath quite a bit and use it as a supplement to the running game. So I look for Sam Darnold to complete a lot of shorter passes. And secondly, if they fall behind where they have to throw, say they fall behind by 2 scores in the second half, he's going to throw more. But I love that over 19.5 completions on Drake May's part. Ironically, both quarterbacks have the same number, 19.5. I'm not sure I would take it with Darnold because I think they'll try to run the ball a lot with Kenneth Walker and may get a lead, but I would with Drake May. And then the other one I love is Sam Darnold's rushing carries number is 2.5. So if you remember the rule in the NFL, a kneel down is a carry. In college football, a kneel down is a carry, and so is a sack. In the NFL, a sack is not a carry. So I love that over 2.5, where he might take off. He averaged about 2.1 this year, but he might take off to get a first down once in a while. And now if he does that, all you need is 2 kneel downs at the end of the game to get to over 2.5. And people, that's why they're a 5-point favorite. You figure Seattle might be ahead at the end of the game. The key is having them get the ball back when New England has enough timeouts and enough time on the clock to be able to kneel down. Sometimes you have that, and you just don't get the chance for the winning quarterback to kneel down. But I like that over 2.5.
Here's one for you. Cooper Kupp, longest reception, over under 16.5 yards. What do you think about that one? Because he clearly has been an almost ball control, third down. We really need this catch kind of guy for them. What's your take on that? Because like you say, one play can bust it, but will he get that chance?
If I bet it, I would go under that number, but I probably wouldn't touch that one. He's become a possession receiver in the slot, and he's lost a step. Right. But no, I would stay away from that one. The other thing I liked with TreVeyon, his over/under numbers, I believe combined rushing and receiving was 34.5. And I like, if you can find that, we combine them both over. Man, I love that bet. So, no, I don't think I'd touch the Cooper Kupp number.
The 2 quarterbacks, you just touched on it. They're both at 19.5 receptions. Is that right?
19.5 completions. Yardage-wise, Darnold is above Drake May at 231.5. Drake May's at 221.5. One of those teams is going to fall behind. I'm not sold on both of those because you got two great defenses. Remember, you
Right.
go in this game knowing two great defenses in the Super Bowl. So the over under 45.5 points, if you put a gun to my head, I'd go under that, but I'm not going to touch that as well because it is a Super Bowl. Some Super Bowls tend to be higher scoring, but I don't like either one of the yardage numbers either way on passing. I do like I said, the completion number over on Drake May.
Yeah, but you've got to do something. You got to do something a little out of character, I think. In 2 weeks, you've got to sort of commit to we're not going to we're going to try to establish ourselves physically at the line of scrimmage, but we're not going to pound our head into the wall because every possession is so freakingly precious in a Super Bowl. Which one of these two teams, in your mind, has a chance to kind of go off script a little bit from what the way it's been playing, which would, in my opinion, dictate how you think you would go with the over-unders on like a quarterback's completions 19 and a half, or like TreVeyon Henderson. Maybe they throw the ball to him 5 times out of the backfield to open things up because of his instant big play capability with the ball in his hands and a fewer defenders to deal with. So does that, you know what I mean? Do you, when you're calculating these things, how much of that do you take in mind of, okay, this is what it says they've done so far. Which one of these coaching staffs is willing to like make a change or more of a change? You follow my drift on that?
Yeah, yeah, it's what coaches, and you know the terminology. Coaches refer to it as breaking tendencies. So
Correct.
when you have an extra week like they do, you get 2 weeks now. If they're ever going to break tendencies, they do it in a Super Bowl, and they might save it for the second half. I mean, some great coaches in the past I've noticed they don't break their tendencies in the first half because it gives the other team time to adjust at halftime because the halftime is
Correct.
longer because of the halftime show. The normal
Yeah.
halftime in the NFL, a lot of fans don't realize this, is only 14 minutes. In the NFL, it's much longer. So you got extra time in there. But some coaches might hold
In the
this
Super
back to the
Bowl, it's
second
much
half.
longer. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you
and
kind of
might
misspoke there. You meant,
hold
yeah, you
this
said in
back
the
to the
NFL, it's much
second
longer.
half to
Yeah,
right, to
exactly.
surprise the other
Go ahead,
team in
though.
the second half 'cause they have no time to adjust in the second half like you do first half and then the halftime. So whether anybody
Right.
breaks tendencies or not, they're battling this other mindset has, hey, let's ride with what got us here. We're in the Super Bowl for a reason. We do this well, we do that well, this well. Why would I change that? So that is
Yeah.
in a head coach's mind all the time. Should I just go with what got us here? That's why we're here. We won the AFC. We won the NFC by doing this. Or do I outsmart the other team and break a tendency and throw something surprising at them? So that's always a mental battle with every head coach that heads into the Super Bowl because of the extra week. So it'll be interesting to see if Mike Vrabel does that, or Seattle's coach McCormick does that at all. McDonald, I always get that name screwed
Yeah,
up.
I know. I
He's
know.
the
It's
guy
okay, man.
with he's a
Yeah.
Mac. I know that.
Yeah. I know. I know. You did that the last show we were doing together, and he's funny. A former, I think he was at Michigan for a while, wasn't he? Didn't he do a sabbatical at Michigan? If I
He
remember
was
right.
at
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh's defensive coordinator up north.
Yeah. Now both of those guys, his offensive defensive coordinators, are both head coaches in the National Football League now, which is pretty interesting. Um, uh, Bottom line is, when I look at this, also, um, is I try to get in guys' heads a little bit, man, because I am I'm thinking right now, which one of these two quarterbacks do I trust to throw the ball down the field? You understand what I'm saying? 10 yards or more is the limit I put on it. Maybe 12 yards or more. Which one of these two quarterbacks, which will play hand in hand on if they do step a little bit out of character on the confidence standpoint of this guy delivering, because it always comes back to the quarterback in the Super Bowl in one form or fashion. Which of you is Coach Jeff Snook? Which one do you trust to throw the ball down the field? Uh, I don't know, make the right reads, throw the ball down the field more consistently. Sam Darnold,
I
a
would,
journeyman,
yeah,
a
I would,
journeyman,
I would,
or Drake
I
May.
would answer
Was he
that.
Drake May second year? Go ahead.
I would probably answer that by saying Sam Darnold, and he's a little bit older than Drake May. Drake May's in his second year. Drake May's shown a tendency to throw into coverage and throw a pick now and then. He's
Yes.
had some games that, even though they've won them, he's not played that well. You can throw the last game in Denver out the window because the conditions, really, they're just wipe that off the slate. Go back to
Right.
your study film on him earlier in the year. But, he's had a couple games where he's thrown it up for grabs and forced the ball. I don't see Sam Darnold doing that as much. He had the last game, the NFC Championship game, a great go route. He laid it right on the money. He could throw the deep ball.
Oh yeah.
Sam Darnold right now is playing MVP quality. He's really playing well. He's very efficient, puts the ball on the money. It's amazing that the Minnesota Vikings, after he did what he did last year, they only lost 2 games in the regular season, but he had a bad game in the playoff, let him go the way they did. They
Yep.
got to be regretting that now. But like I said, he's the hottest quarterback probably in the league right now because of where he is, the receivers he got with Jaxon Smith-Njigba. So I trust him more than Drake May not to make the crucial mistake.
Yeah. But that bootleg Drake May ran what against Denver? I mean, at this moment, I think either one of these quarterbacks is willing to do whatever it takes. I know that sounds trite, but that's not always the case. If you follow my drift, I think it's interesting. I agree with you 100%. I would trust Sam Darnold more to throw the ball down the field, but we've also seen Sam Darnold be confused, maybe if that's the right way of saying it, be confused a little bit more at times by what he's seeing that's new as he's perusing the secondary. And sometimes it takes him a while to get a handle on that. And like you were talking about, just because a Super Bowl team defense did this in the first half doesn't mean they're going to do that in the second half and of the game. And I'm just thinking Drake May's a pretty sharp pencil. I mean, it's not just because of his last name. I don't want to make people clear about that. He did add an E to the end for excellence, but I just think he's a pretty sharp cookie when it comes to like figuring out finally what's going on in front of him. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Both quarterbacks are very intelligent. I mean, there's no denying that. And they've had an extra week, so you always got to factor in what does the extra week mean. They would have started studying the defenses right away. So when we talked about breaking tendencies earlier, it's not only an offense that breaks tendencies. A defense might break tendencies on down and distance in their coverage to try to get that extra confusion in the quarterback. And they show pre-snap looks and post-snap looks, and so the defense is also. I think the defenses actually have an advantage with the extra week because they can prepare for more looks that they've got throughout the year. They just don't look at the previous 3 games. They go back through the whole season, look at every game because something might be pulled out offensively, and thrown at them that they haven't seen in the last 2 months. So and they got time to do it now. They have so many coaches that can break down film and simplify it. So it's, that's another thing to look for is what coverages and down and distance that the defense throw at them. They didn't throw at them during the year. So that's why a Super Bowl is so interesting. That extra week, no different than a bowl game in the old days. You got 3 to 4 weeks to prepare. And which team is rusty, which team is not. Although 2 weeks, you really shouldn't be rusty. 2 week layoff, you can heal your bumps and bruises, be fresh. There shouldn't be any rust involved. And, it's up to the coaches to shake that off this week in Santa Clara if there is. But you want your quarterbacks being sharp, and you give them some early completions, some shorter completions, build up that confidence and rhythm, so they can pick right up where they left off in the playoffs earlier. And again, don't go back to Drake May's game against Denver. He didn't play that well, but nobody did in that weather. And you mentioned that bootleg that put the game away. I was really surprised when I read he did that on his own without telling the coaching staff.
Right.
What a gamble for a second-year guy to just keep the ball. If there had been a defensive end there that turned and met him and he drops the ball and doing that on his own, I mean, I can't imagine the fallout or ramifications. They wanted to run a stretch play, and he didn't tell a soul that he was going to fake it and keep it. So, fortunately for him, he got the needed yardage to get the first down where they could take a kneel down then, and the game was over. But that really jumped out at me when he said that.
All great quarterbacks, there comes that moment in time, whether it's a Super Bowl or third game of the season, where it just hits you. Uh, you know what? Final analysis. Once the ball is snapped, it's my game. Meaning, I've got to do what I feel is best at this second in time, and that to me that shows you a lot of moxie on Drake May's part. I just think it's cool. If either one of these quarterbacks, if either one of these teams can generate what I call consistent pressure from the A gap area on either side of the center, which one of these quarterbacks do you trust most on the run, meaning scrambling out and still making a play, not running necessarily the ball, but running to get to throw the ball off platform a little bit? Which one of these two quarterbacks do you trust? Do you like better? I guess not trust is not the right word, but which one of these two, if in fact either defense can get consistent pressure up the middle, which one of these two do you like out on the edge?
Well, obviously that's Drake May. I mean, I think his over under rushing number is 38.5. That's a high number for a quarterback. And that does not include sacks like it does in college. But he's shown he can
the
do
parameter
that.
I threw on it was not running and then throwing the ball. Is you understand what I'm saying? Getting out there on the edge and then throwing it.
As far as maybe rolling the pocket, you mean, they roll
not
Drake May
necessarily
out
rolling
a
the
little
pocket,
bit.
meaning scrambling. Scrambling, I guess, is the word. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, it'd be Drake May. I mean, he's proven that he's done it way more than Sam Darnold's done it this year. Their numbers are drastically different. He tucks it and runs it quite a bit, actually.
Oh yeah.
So
young man. He's a young man.
He's younger. He's younger. He's more capable. He's got quicker feet. He can run the ball. He ran the ball out at North Carolina. But he'd be the guy to answer that question. He's the one that obviously he's going to have more rushing yards than Sam Darnold will in this game. I can almost bank on that right now. That's why the betting prop is so much higher than it is over Sam Darnold.
Yeah, but my point I'm making is he's the guy who has the ability to scramble but not end up throwing it off the scramble. Which one of these two?
Yeah,
do you still like Drake May in that respect? I think Sam Darnold's looked pretty good doing that. Go ahead.
Which one's going to buy time in the pocket's what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'd
still not in the pocket. I'm talking about when you're flush from the pocket and you got to get out on the edge one way or the other. It's not a called play. It's it's a backyard play where now you've got to play football as opposed to play the play. You've got to play football based on what's happening from the standpoint of the play is now gone. Now you got to make something happen. But I don't include scrambling and running in that. I'm talking about scrambling and getting on the edge and still making completions.
Yeah, it would still be Drake May. I don't be surprised they have a run pass option in there to get him out on the edge, and they'll run their routes accordingly in front of him. And if there's nobody in front of him, he'll be instructed to take off. Down a distance, a 3rd and 3, a 3rd and 2, that's what you call a 3rd and 4, or give him the option if it's there. You got green in front of you, take off and get the first down, come back and live for another series. If you got a receiver, somebody linebackers coming at you, you got a receiver open or two, you throw the ball. Those are, I love quarterbacks.
Oh, I know. I don't mean to keep hammering that. The point I'm making is you get on the edge. Which one do you like throwing the ball, not having the option of throwing it, but still throwing the ball? I think Sam Darnold's looked pretty good in that regard off and on this season. You like Drake May. We'll move on from there because, either one of these guys could scramble and get 10 yards. But I like Drake May more in that regard also, like you're talking about. But my point is, getting out of the pocket, moving around the pocket, and still making a pass down the field, meaning not letting the crap that's going on around you keep you from making a big play with your arm, if you follow my drift. That's all I was going there for there.
They're both good at it. That's why they're here.
Yeah,
but no, Drake May's a little more Drake May's a little more mobile than Sam Darnold is.
Right. Yeah. Hey, let's which primary player in this Super Bowl has surprised you that he is in this Super Bowl? Let's see, I'm asking this the wrong way. No, I'm not. Which kind of primary player in the Super Bowl you maybe 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, you didn't see ever playing in a Super Bowl? Is it Sam Darnold? Is it Kenneth Walker the third? Is it Jaxon Smith-Njigba? I mean, you could name anybody you want to. Is it Cooper Kupp, whose career was now thought to be over, and he's found salvation with Seattle as a, like you said, a possession receiver? Which one of these guys is sort of a surprise that he is sort of an incremental part of this team when, in fact, you thought he'd never make it here or you thought it was over for him? I know that's kind of hitting you from left field there, but a guy that could all of a sudden be, you know what I mean?
You can go with both quarterbacks. If you go back far enough,
Yeah.
when the Jets took Sam Darnold, they let him go after that and ended up bouncing around a little bit. He was pretty much regarded a bust. I believe they took him number 3 in the draft, the Jets. I'm trying to remember. He and Josh Rosen were almost back to back. So Barkley was number 2. That's Rosen. The year that Baker Mayfield was number 1. Barkley was 2. And I thought Darnold went 3 to the Jets. Jets and Giants were picking back to back. So, at that point, he looked like a bust. And then he revives his career in Minnesota. Now you go back 1 year, as many people in New England, his rookie season would have regarded Drake May as a bust to be. He was going to be a bust. And all of a sudden this year, with the new coaching staff, Josh McDaniel and Mike Vrabel instilled some confidence in him, and they've formed game plans around him to get his confidence up. Had a pretty good two-headed running game in Stevenson and TreVeyon Henderson to take some pressure on him. And they slowly built upon that. And now he's an MVP candidate. They both are. So, I mean, you look at these quarterbacks, and there's times in the past, nobody would have thought they'd been Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. And one of them's going to be. One of them's going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and the other one's going to be a Super Bowl runner-up. And, you look at the teams that had Sam, both of them got to regret letting him go. Maybe the system didn't fit. But, let's look at quarterbacks in the NFL. A lot of them don't light it up as a 22, 23, 24-year-old. It takes 3 to 6 years sometimes to get comfortable, to get in the right system, and to build upon what they did. That is the most difficult position in sports, bar none. To me, it is. Yeah. And maybe catching in baseball would compare to it, but nothing's more difficult than being a quarterback in the National Football League. So you just don't pick that up right away as a rookie. The only guy I remember as a rookie lighting it up when the time he came in is Dan Marino in 1983 with the Dolphins. Other than that, everybody struggled. Peyton Manning set a record for NFL interceptions. John Elway was terrible. These are number 1 picks of the draft that everybody thought would just, come in and be that way like they were in college. It doesn't work that way. Marino's the only one I can think of. And the kid at Washington, Jaden McDaniels, had a great rookie year too. He's up there with Marino, but Marino was the best in the game back then other than Montana, who beat him in the Super Bowl his second year down the street from where they're playing this one in Stanford Stadium. Hard to believe they played a Super Bowl at that old decrepit Stanford Stadium I'd been in.
Yeah, no, I was there. I mean, I had been there earlier, but I was there, and it's amazing how far the Super Bowl has come. It's kind of nuts. Hey, and that just shows you, man. That's what's so queer is Dan Marino only played in 1 Super Bowl and didn't win it. Right. Dan Marino. Meanwhile, Drake May, Drake May and what's his face are playing in the Super Bowl for the first time. And who knows? I mean, Sam Darnold, they may be back 2 or 3 more times based on, like you said, the team you've got and stuff. So I wanted to get to this. We'll end up with this. Who's your pick in the Super Bowl? Let's go back to that. The line really hasn't changed. Neither has and neither is the over/under. I don't think. Right, it stayed right at 45 and a half. Right, and 4.5.
Yeah. The lines bounced. It opened at 4.5, went to 5, back to 4. It's bounced back and forth between 4.5 and 5. And we'll see where it ends up on Sunday morning. A lot of the big hitters in Las Vegas, and I'm talking about the guys who bet seven figures, and there'll be a few come in on Sunday morning. They'll wait till Sunday morning. You're going to invest that much money. You want to see that injury report first, and they'll have it solidified by then. It's been talk of Drake May having a shoulder, been talk of Sam Darnold nicked up a little bit, but because he was limited in practice, I guess yesterday. May was a full participant in practice yesterday, so those guys will wait till Sunday morning. And I always love to read about these big whopping bets, which way they
Yeah.
went, and there'll be seven-figure bets on each team. So it's not it's not like they're going one way, but it's just it's interesting to see how that works out. Whether the line's going to go under 4.5, or if it's going to go back over 5 on game day. And yeah, that over under number, if I expect anything to happen, I expect that to go down from 45.5, but it might not move at all.
Really?
Who knows? It's
Really?
you know,
See,
well, there's
I've
two great
always thought,
defenses. The more these defenses are, people talk about these defenses that that it could be an under number.
yeah. I just look at these kind of games and I go, fourth quarter, the Super Bowl is going to be on the line. Winning the Super Bowl, which is career stamping, life changing event for everybody involved, is going to be on the line. And I just think that, that's when teams throw caution in their minds to the wind a little bit. And I think this one could end up being a scoring fest in that regard. By that, I mean going over 45 in terms of over under. The line, I don't really care about the line because that can swing on one thing or another, but it is uncanny when it comes to games how close the guys that set these numbers are to reality, right? I mean that drives you nuts a little bit, don't it? Doesn't it, when you dabble in it? I mean how close these
Well, that's
guys
why I
really are
said
when it comes to yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said earlier the NFL is hard to beat because they have every bit of knowledge at their fingertips as far as injuries and tendencies, and they run these computer matchups. And
Yeah.
it's hard to beat that. Where in college, I see every weekend on a Saturday a line that is wrong, incorrect. It should have been this way, higher. It should have been lower. I can spot those pretty well in college because you got issues there that the college teams do not have to report all their injuries. Some of those lines are skewed by earlier run-up scores that are 52-7 and might not happen the next week. That doesn't happen in the NFL. You don't have many
Yeah.
blowouts. You don't have lines that get skewed by previous results, and they're usually pretty accurate. Remember, a line is only this when they're set in Vegas. They want 50% of the money bet on one side of the line and 50% on the other. So the public moves the line. The public will
Yeah.
move the line by how they wager, and Vegas will adjust so that is still 50-50 per side. And that goes for the over-under as well. So a lot of times your over-unders are easier to beat than the actual point spread. And I pay attention to weather. Like I'll be honest, I had the under in the Denver Broncos Patriots game. It was 45 and it was 10-7. I knew weather was moving in. I didn't know when the weather was moving in. It said toward the fourth quarter and moved in at halftime. So if you're in Denver and you see that weather moving in, you can also bet a second half over under, which was 20.5, and the 3 points were scored in the second half. So I've in the NFL, I've always used weather as a barometer of go to under or over. You have to wind, snow, rain. It's tough to move the ball. It's tough to throw the ball and catch the ball. I don't think there's any forecast for rain in Santa Clara, but I haven't looked at it yet to even see. Obviously,
Yeah.
not going to be snow south of San Francisco. Driven by that stadium plenty on my way to Carmel, but never stepped foot in it.
Yeah, driven by that stadium many times on my way to Carmel. Uh, 67 degrees, AccuWeather says. High of 67 in Santa Clara. Uh, uh, that's about regular,
Well,
maybe a little bit
Carmel's
warmer than regular. And it's supposed to be maybe a 30% chance of some type of precipitation as the day goes on. There'll be low areas of low clouds and fog early with a chance of rain in the afternoon, which stands at right now at about 30% with a 5% chance of thunderstorms. So I would think the weather is going to be as close as you can get to a non-factor. I don't see anything talking about wind being any kind of, to me, wind, unless it's ridiculously cold, wind is the main factor you look for of really flipping a game one way or the other. And of course, heavy precipitation can do it too. All right, let's get to this. Who's your pick for MVP of Super Bowl 60?
First of all, let me ask you why you were mocking me when I said, when I drive to Carmel. That's one of my getaways. I love Carmel by the Sea. And my favorite actor is the former mayor, Clint Eastwood. He's got a little place there called the Mission Ranch, which I'm happy to plug. Best place in the world. You could eat the best prime rib and look at the Pacific Ocean. And I think you and I went there one night before the Cow game about 12 years ago. And they got a
Yeah.
fireplace, a piano bar. It's one of the best places in the world to get away and
Hell yeah.
enjoy yourself. But no,
Remember
but
the
anyway,
waitress when you asked the waitress, Betty White was a regular customer there or in the bar restaurant there at Mission Ranch, and you asked the waitress at one time. By the way, let me guess, Chardonnay or something like was your guess about what her preferred
yeah.
drink was, and you remember what the waitress said?
Yeah. Well, by the
Grey
way, let
Goose.
me let me set it, let
Great.
me
Wait a
set
minute.
this
Great.
up.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
I've
sorry.
let me tell the story. I've sat there several times next to Clint Eastwood on his own bar stools and talked to him.
Right.
He always talks sports. He talked sports and politics and history or whatever. He didn't like ever talking about one of the movies he made because people would come up and approach him and I'd overhear a lot of the conversations. But he loved to talk sports and politics, and we did quite often. But no, Betty White had a house up the hill back
Right.
when her health was good, and she could walk up the hill. And the ironic thing was, I asked the bartender, I said, "Let me guess, she a Chardonnay drinker?" And he goes, "Chardonnay." He said she drinks Grey Goose on the rocks and pounds them in a short glass. And after a couple, she'll be out on the dance floor dancing, having a blast. And ironically enough, when I sit next to Clint Eastwood, guess what he always drank? It wasn't a cold beer like in the westerns. It wasn't a shot of whiskey. He would be drinking a Chardonnay. He loved his white wine because he got off the golf course. Usually in Pebble Beach or some golf course right next door, and he'd come
Yeah.
in and he wanted a cold glass of wine versus a beer, and then he would move on to maybe a red glass. But I always find that fascinating how you expect one and the other, and they were just the opposite.
Yeah. I thought you said the guy said no Grey Goose straight up, which I thought was
Yeah.
the best thing about Betty White. I mean, wow, man, maybe that is the fountain of youth is some type of hard liquor at least once a day. Or what do you think? Do you
Well,
subscribe to that?
my dad lived to be 45 days short of his 100th birthday. He's 99
Right.
years, 10 months, 15 days. And very rarely did he have a day in that lifetime once he was an adult, other than the 4 years in the war, where he didn't have a cold beer at the end of the day. He always loved a cold beer
Wow.
at almost 5 o'clock on the dot. Sometimes he had two. If he ever had more than two, it's when I corrupted him when we were traveling. That's what my mom always said. Jeff, he never has more than two unless he's around you. You're always corrupting him. And I said, well, yeah, maybe I did, but I love being around my dad so much. And
Yeah.
when he and I had a couple of drinks together, we had even more fun because he was just a fun-loving guy. He'd start telling war stories, which I end up taping his war stories and making it in my latest book. I'm going to plug it, From Ohio to Okinawa. Go buy it. I've got great feedback. Good read, From Ohio to
Oh, it's a
Okinawa.
great
It's
read.
on Jeff
Yeah.
or Amazon.com. But no, dad had a beer every day, and he lived to be 99 in 10 months. So what's that tell you?
Hey, I stepped on you there a little bit. You can get access to this book by, I think it was your website. Go ahead, give those website
Yeah,
or those
JeffSnook.com.
venues.
Well, JeffSnook.com or Amazon.com. Either one of them has it,
Yeah,
but the same price, $24.95, free shipping. But go on
yeah,
Jeff Snook, and I can probably have people get it to you quicker than even Amazon can do.
yeah. But I'm telling you, what a read and what a book, and kind of remind me reading through there about he really liked his cold beer because you got to figure all those. He won what two bronze stars, right? Do I have that right? Or one bronze star?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm trying.
yeah.
Go
The
ahead.
two bronze stars and
Yes,
about 13 other medals. And, he
yes,
used to I had some good stories in 1942 when he's stationed in Hawaii where they could get GIs could get cans of beer for 5 cents. And then even over in R&R in 1944 after his battle of Saipan, there were New Hebrides on R&R. He said we had all the beer we could drink well for 5 cents. What we didn't have was ice. And he goes, I never did
right.
like warm beer, so we had no way of making the beer ice cold. So a lot of it went largely undrank because he couldn't drink warm beer. And that's why to this way, all throughout his life, he'd put an ice cube in a beer. He loved it as cold as possible.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it kind of reminds me of Tom Hanks in Castaway when he finally gets back on
Right.
the when he's on the airplane. He's shaking the ice in his cup, something he hadn't had for years. And your dad. I mean, yeah, your dad. What a legend, and what a great read, by the way. I'm going to say that one more time because I really enjoyed that book. Uh, did I already ask you?
Tim,
Go ahead.
related to this R&R story, it's real quick, good story. They're in New Hebrides. Spirit de Santo is the name of the island, and it's just a picturesque island. That's where they wrote South Pacific, by the way, that became the Broadway musical. So anyway, he found a little bay, and he'd swim in the bay, and he could see it was filling, just teeming with snapper, every kind of Pacific fish there was.
Yeah.
They befriended a cattle farmer, a French cattle farmer, who gave them all the beef they wanted. And Dad experimented with this little bay. He threw a hanger grenade in it one day, and all the snapper floated to the top. And he would go collect the snapper. They started trading the fish for more beef to give
Beef.
the cattle farmers the fish. They had all the fish they could eat for the months they were there. And Captain came to him and said, "Hey, who's been wasting our grenades catching these fish?" And he goes, "Well, I thought I was in big trouble." I said, "It was me." And he goes, "Well, keep it up. Morale's never been stronger than it is with you getting all these fish." So I always thought that was a funny story.
Yeah, you just gotta watch the shrapnel, man. Don't want to you want to bite down on a piece of shrapnel in that fish. Yeah, that is a great story, man. Hey, well, let's wrap this up, man. So Jeff Snook, one of my best friends ever, um, et cetera. As I like to say, the first part of your name is my good buddy Jeff Snook. That's what all my family knows you as. Um, who is your pick in
I'm
this in
on.
the Super Bowl? And who? Wait a minute. I may have already asked you, but I'm gonna ask you again. And who is your pick for MVP? Go ahead.
I'm going to go with Seattle to win the game. Not sure they're going to cover. I love the combination of Sam Darnold to Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I'm going to go with number 11 as the MVP. I want to go out on a limb. It's easy to pick a quarterback. The quarterbacks
Right.
are heavily favored to win the MVP. I'll go with Jackson Smith-Njigba to have a big game, over 100 yards, maybe 2 touchdowns, and him as the MVP. I say this, and usually you look at a lot of Super Bowls, somebody comes out of nowhere to surprise you sometimes. But I just love that combination of Darnold to Jackson Smith-Njigba, the way he gets open. And I'm going to root for the Patriots. I'm going to root for Mike Vrabel in the Patriots. Even though the Patriots got 6 Super Bowls, Mike Vrabel will become the first player coach to have one with the same franchise. And it's hard to root against him. He's such a good guy. We both knew him back in the day, and I just the job he's done just fantastic. So I would rather the Ohio State coach win a Super Bowl than the Michigan coach, and that's who I'm going to root for. Even though if I had to bet money on it, I'd do the opposite.
Yeah. I really think that Jackson Smith-Njigba could have a big game. I think TreVeyon Henderson could have a big play or two. I'm looking at the list of MVPs. The last MVP of the Super Bowl who wasn't a quarterback was Cooper Kupp. He had 8 catches for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns way back in Super Bowl. What was that? 56.
It was against the Bengals. Against the Bengals
Yes,
in their home field, I
against the
believe.
Bengals.
You and I were in Las Vegas for that game too, I think.
Yeah, we absolutely were. And then Julian Edelman was the last MVP in the Super Bowl for the New England Patriots. He also was a wide receiver. And it's pretty interesting because you look all the way back through from Julian Edelman back to Super Bowl 48. The MVP for the Pittsburgh Steelers was wide receiver Santonio Holmes, a former Buckeye. So there are all these kind of like little tentacles that are like coinky dinks about who's in this game or the position we're talking about. But I see Sam Darnold. If Seattle wins, I see Sam Darnold being the MVP. And if New England wins, I see Drake May being the MVP, which leads me to I like New England in this game. One way or the other, I think they're going to figure out a way to get it done. And I know they're 4.5-point underdogs. That doesn't mean diddly to me. I mean, one turnover here, one turnover there, and everything flips. But I like New England to win the game, and I like one of Ohio State's now favored sons, Mike Vrabel, to really get his moment. And isn't it really funny before we go? Isn't it really funny how Bill Belichick, his first time as a head coach in the National Football League was with the Cleveland Browns, and they improved dramatically, in my opinion, under his stewardship, which included an assistant coach. One of the assistant coaches was named Nick Saban. And then all of a sudden they got dumped by Art Modell when the franchise moved, or just before the franchise moved to Baltimore. I just like this chemistry. Mike Vrabel learned on the fly with the Tennessee Titans about being a head coach, and I like what he's got going on now. There's a definite feel to what he's got going on and off the field there in New England. So I'm going with Mike Vrabel as the Super Bowl winning coach. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I hope you're right. I mean, I like Mike a lot.
You wrote a good piece about him, by the way, on Facebook.
Pardon me?
You wrote a really good piece about him on Facebook earlier this week.
Mike,
I'd let people know.
Mike is such a great story. He's such a quick learner. He doesn't have the deep coaching background a lot of guys have. He didn't start till 2011 when his buddy Luke Fickell hired him as an interim coach on a stopgap basis. Mike knows football as well as anybody. What he didn't know was coaching. There's a difference between knowing the game and knowing how to coach. So it's like when Urban Meyer interviewed him the following year in 2012, he admits, I bombed the interview. I didn't know what I was doing. So I didn't know how to relate as a coach. And he quickly learned. And then he went from there as an assistant to the Houston Texans, I believe, as a linebackers coach is where he started. He worked his way up to coordinator. Worked his way. Bill O'Brien, the former Penn State coach. Then he worked his way up as a coordinator. And then he became head coach of the Titans, was wildly successful for a couple years, then had 2 down years due to injuries. And the ownership changed where Amy Strunk decided to fire him when she got the ownership controlling interest. Big mistake. I mean, you fire a guy like that.
How's that gone for you? But go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That guy could be a Hall of Fame coach. He's so good. So it's very rare where you have an all-pro player want to get into coaching. And the reason nowadays is they usually got enough in their bank account. They don't need that 24-hour grind as it is to coach in the NFL, to get in the office at 5:30 or 6 and watch film and not leave till 11 p.m. It's a bad lifestyle. You get some off time in the off season, but it's a high-pressure job. It's a lot of work. That's why all-star players, all-pro players don't become coaches. They're already set for life, so why do it? But Mike is a rare breed who is going to do it because he loves a challenge and he's going to put his knowledge to use. And he's also a people person. You wouldn't think that he would be a people person with coaching the Patriots when you knew him back in college. Those players love him. He relates to them very well. Watch the videos that come off the field toward the locker room. He's there to greet each and every one of them. He's a so-called players coach, and yet he's got great discipline. They stayed the night in Denver after the snowstorm. He told those guys in the locker room one thing. He said, the bus leaves at 8 a.m. for the airport. Go out and have a good time. Celebrate tonight. If you're not on that 8 a.m. bus, you're not going to play in the Super Bowl. And that's self-policing. I mean, that's leadership. And those players are not going to take advantage of him in a rule like that. They love the guy. They want to win the game for him. They don't want to let him down. And it's easy to see the way they play and how when he's mic'd up, how they come up and said, you saved my career. I love you. So-and-so. And a lot of them did it after that Denver game in the waning moments. So it's great to see Mike be so successful so early.
I agree 100%. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Jeff Snook. I'm Tim May. This has been the Tim May pre-Super Bowl show. It did not feature Clay Hall because Clay Hall left the stage to Jeff Snook. I've just been trying to direct the orchestra down here in the orchestra pit while Jeff Snook sang his arias. Hey, Jeff, thank you very much for joining me again, my man.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl. Good to see you again. Have a great day.
And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you then. Shh. By the way, Clay has left the room. I wanted to let you folks in on a real bargain out there in the world of simulator golf. The Back Nine Golf, which is located at 2820 Fishinger Road in Upper Arlington, has a hell of a holiday box available to you right now. The value is nearly $300, but your price is $150 if you jump online. That's almost 50% off if you jump online at Columbus at theback9golf.com. That's their email address.
Their website is theback9golf.com/Columbus-upper-Arlington-OH/. That's a long address, but just write it down a couple times watching it. And you can also call them at 614-362-7888, parentheses putt, PUTT. But the bottom line is one of the new ultra modern simulators that you can find in the greater Columbus area. And it's really right there in the middle of Upper Arlington. I know Tito Thidoff and I hopped in there the other day. I think it was 16 degrees outside. There was snow and ice everywhere, and we played Pebble Beach. And we did it in less than an hour. So it's one of the great bargains going out there. And with this holiday box, you get 1 month of Birdie membership. You get Back Nine branded golf balls. You get cozy Back Nine beanie, and you get premium Back Nine towel. So that's a hell of a deal, because basically it's unlimited golf. It's 24/7. You get a code to get you in the door, and then you can go from there. And it's definitely fun. It's the premises are pristine. I know we had a great time. We even played closest to the hole, a few shots on number 7, famed number 7 short par 3 at Pebble Beach the other day, and had a great time doing it. So if you're looking for that last minute gift for a golfer that you love, or yourself that you love, that you're a golfer, nothing wrong with giving yourself a gift at this time of the year. That's the Back Nine Golf holiday box, and it's only a limited time. And as you can imagine, there are only a few available. Quantities are tight. So check in at theback9golf.com.